Are people getting smarter? Hello everyone, this is Danielita, your teacher here, and I'm gonna go over this presentation with you to give you some reinforcement and some backup in order to help you punctuate your sentences better, okay? Please bear with me. She achieved success, although she doesn't do well on EQ tests. She doesn't do well on EQ tests, period. However, she achieved success. We have however here after period because it's a transition word, okay? And we always should place a comma, right? She achieved success, period. However, comma, she doesn't do well on EQ tests. Once again, however, is a transition word, which it is, and you should have a comma afterwards. She achieved success, though she doesn't do well on EQ tests. Though is a subordinating conjunction and it expresses contrast. So we should put a comma if we use indisposition, right, as the second clause. So she achieved success, comma, though she doesn't do well on EQ tests. If we had another subordinating conjunction, like because, that does not express an idea of contrast, we wouldn't have this comma right here. Though she does not do well on EQ tests, comma, she achieved success. There isn't just one kind of intelligence. So intelligence is not easy to measure. We have two independent clauses, and we're gonna use one of the fanboys here with a comma before. There isn't just one kind of intelligence. Therefore, a transition word with a comma, it is not easy to measure. Since there isn't just one kind of intelligence, comma, because this is a dependent clause, right, here, the adverb, it is not easy to measure. Intelligence is not easy to measure since there isn't just one kind. Okay, if we start this sentence with the subordinating clause, the dependent one, we put a comma. If we have the dependent clause in this position here, we only put a comma if this clause here expresses contrast. Since there isn't just one kind, it does not express contrast, so we should not put a comma here. If you get a high score, okay, dependent clause in the beginning, comma, you will be given an interview. As long as you get a high score, dependent clause in the beginning, comma, you will be given an interview. You will be given an interview as long as you get a high score. As long as you get a high score, it's the dependent clause in this position here. It should not take a comma unless it represents contrast, as long as does not. So there is no comma here. You wouldn't be given an interview unless you get a high score. You will get an interview unless you do not get a good score. Again, no comma for dependent clauses in this position here. If we started with unless you get a high score, comma, you won't be given an interview. IQ tests can predict success in low stress conditions, comma, but they often fail to predict performance in stressful situations. Even though IQ tests can predict success in low stress conditions, comma, dependent clause beginning the sentence, they often fail to predict performance in stressful situations. IQ tests often fail to predict performance in stressful conditions. We're going to use a dependent clause of contrast in this position here. So we should put a comma right here. If this clause here did not express contrast, we would not have the comma right here.